Good morning, afternoon, and evening, everybody. My name is miahtheking, and I wanted to buy a pair of camouflage pants, but I just couldn't find any. Now then, today we're taking a look at a game released this evening called Jumplight Odyssey, a strategy simulation management kind of game where you play as a bunch of space people on a ship searching for some mythical star. There's more to it, I'll go into that in a minute, but developed and published by League of Geeks, released in early access, and selling for $30 American. By the way, I'm super excited to be jumping into this one and taking a look, so much so that I took a break from Baldur's Gate 3 to try it out. In this game, you play as these people from a world called Pleiades, I think that's how it's pronounced. It's attacked by this evil guy. His name eludes my memory. Anyway, he pretty much blows up your planet, and you have to travel the galaxy finding the Forever Star, which, as your legends would like you to believe, will lead you to peace, prosperity, and home. And that's pretty much it. It's basically hope in a star. Now you have to keep your crew alive, head towards the Forever Star, and don't let the evil bad guy catch you. Now, as always, I'll go into the good and the bad, followed by my final thoughts. Alright? So, up first is the positives. The first positive is the charming art style. I mean, they went full-on cartoony mode here.
And sought to extinguish our light. In a desperate bid to defend our beloved home, we committed everything we had.
I mean, it's cartoony, but it's also charming. I kinda like it. I mean, it put a big old smile on my face as I started watching. It's not perfect, though. Here's the catch. Everything else is a bit lacking. Once you're in the gameplay, some things look great, others not so much. Like the ship itself and all the stuff in the ship looks great. But I mean, just look at the people walking around. Look at how low textured and blurry they are with very little detail. And if you get to see in this video, look at their portraits. It's kind of embarrassing. But the overall style that they chose, that I like. Next up for the positives is the sound effects. They went for a different route here than what you'd normally expect. Just like the graphics are cartoony, so are the sound effects. They have the effects that are ripped straight out of the 80s, or I don't know, maybe it's 90s. I was born in the 90s, but I don't remember this. But still, it's that old-style, classic spacefaring sound effects. Pachoo, pachoo, stuff like that. It's corny, but also fun to listen to, as is the music. Also, they have partial voice acting throughout the game. It seems so legit that I didn't even give it a second listen because it just fits so well. So, you know, very well job done there, voice actress. The next positive I have is the overall idea here, you know, the originality. It's pretty cool. I mean, it's kind of like a city builder simulation game, but, you know, instead of building a colony or whatever, you're in a massive starship. You know, you're going to have to need to build a bathhouse, gun turrets, a manufacturing room, farming greenhouse room, bedrooms, and the list goes on. You have to manage your people's cleanliness, their hunger, their sanity, and so on. You can send ships out on expeditions to retrieve resources or send your fighters to do military patrols. I mean, there's just the overall idea of making it like a simulation game but with a giant starship is just really freaking cool. Like, I love space, I love sci-fi stuff, so this is really cool. I know this idea has been done before, but not quite like this, and I think that's why I like it. And last but not least is the gameplay. There's a ton of stuff here, and I already briefly mentioned some of it in my last point. I'll most likely miss out on some stuff, but I'm going to give it my best shot not to. So in the gameplay, you basically have a whole ship to run, right? People have mood swings, and you need to keep their moods up by giving them certain things or decorating or whatever. You also have this hope meter, which if it gets to 0, then it's game over. You can lose hope by losing people, or gain hope or by gaining people, or, you know, based on how other random events might progress. But you can build your own ammo reserves for combat, which you're going to need, otherwise you can't fight effectively. You need to farm your own food supplies, which can also be used to craft medical supplies. You need to plan your jumps accordingly. You have shuttles that you can fill with a crew of your choice and send them out to do missions. Each crew member will be bringing different benefits to that mission. Your crew will also develop inner drama amongst themselves, or form relationships, or whatever. You can also build more fighter ships or more transport ships so that you can better defend yourself or scavenge. And for those fighter ships, you can send them on defensive patrols, or you can scuttle them if you're suddenly attacked. Your goal here is to make it to the star at the end of the tunnel, you know, the light at the end of the tunnel, and scavenge or save whoever or whatever you can along the way to help you survive the journey. Your crew can even get call signs, although I don't really know how or what they do, but it's a cool concept, and you have various different things that you can manage on your ship, all of which make sense and are nice to see. Hell, you even have a chief of engineers, a head marshal of your marines, you know, like the head of each department, you know, so that's really cool. And all of these people and the rest of your crew, you can look up at inside like a manifest that you have in the game, and you can see everybody. You can click on them, and then once you click on them, you can inspect them and see what they're thinking, what they're doing, what their job is. And it also jumps you to them on the ship, so you can also see what they're doing at the point in time where they're doing it. It's all very intricate and interesting and very well managed. I didn't get to experience any combat yet. I don't know if I'm lucky or unlucky, or if there's just only combat if the bad guy catches you, which I wasn't letting him do. So I don't really know what that's like yet, unfortunately. But hopefully that'll be a lot of fun when I get to it. The game also has 2 modes available for play right now. One is following Princess Euphora, the last surviving monarch of your people, and in this gameplay mode, it's basically the tutorial and main story. And the other mode is to create your own Odyssey, basically, where you can choose your own captain, your own ship style, and other minute details of setting up your game, like how much resources you start out with or how difficult the journey is going to be. Although currently there's nothing there since this game is in early access, which is a big old bummer. Alright, so that's all I got for the positives. Now I gotta go on to the negatives. But before that, could you please share my video on the internet? The only way for my channel to get views is to already have them because of YouTube's awful design in regards to new or small YouTubers. Basically, it is really hard for me to get more noticed when I'm so small. You know, my channel. So what I really need is for my viewers out there to spread the word. It helps me out way more than you might think, and I would really appreciate it. Now then, on to the negatives. The first negative is the user interface, the UI. I mean, hell, the first thing that jumped out at me was the size of the text in some of these situations. I mean, what the hell? It's so freaking small. I've got perfect vision, and I still can't read some of this stuff. Who's that meant for? I don't have a magnifying glass on hand. Now, some of the button placements make sense, but some don't. Like, why do I need the square bracket on my keyboard to speed up time? It's way over there, and, like, all my other shortcuts are on the left. Why is this one on the right? It's just really awkwardly placed. But mostly the controls are mapped in appropriate places and make sense. But the user interface is still a bit confusing at times. Like, you need to go into build mode, then you need to click on the room. Be careful, because the corridors and the hallways also count as a room, so don't click on those ones. And then you got to click on what you want to do with the room, and then you get to build what you want to build. Then you've got to hold the confirm button to confirm you want to build this stuff. Like, why? I've never seen that in one of these simulation games before. Like, I've played Dungeon Keeper and Evil Genius and a bunch of others, and you just place them, and we get it. If we don't want it there, we can just remove it, can't we? Why do I got to hit the confirm button? Not only that, but there's like barely any pop-up tooltip bubbles anywhere. I mean, there are some in some places, like over your resources and over the hope and maybe a few other things. But what about random symbols, like when you're selecting a ship? Like, if you click on a ship, you've got all these tabs, but I don't know what these tabs mean or what the symbols on these tabs mean. So I've got no choice but to either click on them to figure them out. But if they won't let me click on them, I have no idea, and it's just left up to the imagination. Or you could just, click on things and see what happens. That's what I've been doing too. Maybe this is because it's early access, but it makes the game more confusing than it needs to be. The next negative I have is the tutorial. It's boring, but if that wasn't bad enough, it ends way too early and definitely did not teach me enough. Hell, for the longest time, I was just trying to figure out how to build ammunition. The game says, hey, it might be a good idea to go build some more ammunition in case we're attacked. And I'm like, okay, cool. But then I got distracted by something on my ship and forgot what room I needed to go to, and there was no way to go back and look at my quest other than, build ammunition. So I had no way of knowing what room I was looking for or where it's supposed to be on my ship. The game, so it didn't tell me where this room was. So I had to search around until I finally found what I thought was it. The UI is so confusing that when I told them to rebuild all the stuff in the room that I thought it was, the game just didn't accept my command for some reason, but it did let me leave the menu. So then, it was just left in a perpetual state of getting nothing done because there was an error. So I come back later to realize this and have to manually fix every little thing that was wrong with the room. Then I'm thinking, okay, now I need to build the ammo, and I'm guessing the manufacturing room is where to do it because it's the only room that sounds like it might be the one that does it. But the main point I'm trying to get at here is the game didn't teach me any of this. I had to figure all of this out for myself. Figure out why the building wasn't or why the room wasn't working. Figure out what it needed, what was wrong with it, fix it, how to fix it. I had to figure out what machine did what, so I needed to know which one I needed to build. I even needed to figure out where the room even was on the ship, because you've got like 12 decks you got to go through. Like, how did I know it was on this deck? You didn't tell me, or if you did tell me, I forgot. Give me a reference or something. And that's just one example of all the times the game expected me to know something or to do something without actually really telling me a whole lot about it. After playing this game for almost 2 hours, I still am confused and just guessing, because the tutorial just didn't teach me enough, and what it did teach me, it didn't do a good enough job at it. I could probably brute force my way through and force myself to explore and destroy things and make things and just, you know, go through this annoying process of trial and error for the whole game, but I don't want to have to do that. I shouldn't have to do that. The game should be able to teach me everything I need to know. And the only reason why I'm making a big deal out of this is because I've been doing this channel for a while, and I've seen all kinds of tutorials. I've seen good ones, I've seen bad ones, and I've seen average ones, and this one is slightly below average. The next negative I have is some of the gameplay. To me, it just feels kind of boring at times. It's a bit slow, a bit confusing, and very repetitive, and in a bad way. I just jump right to the next planet, send out ships to scavenge random resources, and then rinse and repeat. That's literally all I do over and over again. Every now and then, I'll get a tiny bit of resources so I can build a bare bones room, but for the most part, it's just that, over and over again, and I was quickly getting bored. Maybe I'm playing it wrong, or maybe I'm missing something, I don't know, but I was expecting it to have more variety and stuff. I mean, when my crew goes out, I just stare at a loading screen as they go on their adventure. Like, when I send a ship out to do a patrol, it's the same thing, a military patrol. I'd like at least a small clip of the ship doing something, or a small cutscene, or I don't know, just something. I hope that combat is more fun and that I actually get to see something and participate and not just watch it all happen. You know, I want to see my fighter jets out there doing dogfights or something. I know your ship can be boarded and maybe you'll get to see some combat that way, but I didn't see it in my first 2 hours. I just sat there scavenging planet after planet while avoiding the evil general. It was just kind of boring to me. And I just really hope that it ramps it up a bit more with more development behind it. You know, maybe some choices you have to make, some decisions, or maybe there's some events that happen in the ship that you got to react to. You know, maybe there's pirates. Maybe, I don't know. You know, it's hard to tell when I've only played it for 2 hours, but right now, in those first 2 hours, I was kind of bored. And the last negative to me is the stability. While playing the game, I was hit with frame rate drops, but the final straw was when the game crashed on me. It was awful. So the game's not even very stable right now, at least not for me, and that crash happened in my first hour. I'm a little worried to go back in with that happening. Alright, so that's all I got for the positives and for the negatives. My final thoughts are next. And what are my final thoughts? Well, I don't know. I mean, the idea is interesting. There's clearly a unique style with a unique idea going on here. The game isn't even finished yet, and it's clearly got unfinished goo all over it. But do I think it's a good game? Yeah, I mean, I think it isn't that bad of a game. It's a bit broken, a bit ugly at some points. It's got some confusing components into its gameplay and its controls. You know, it's got its issues, sure, but overall it's a really interesting idea, and it is going about it in a different kind of way that I find myself really intrigued by. I probably won't pick it up again personally until it's got a lot more development behind it, but even so, it's just a really cool little idea. If you're into simulator games and you love spaceship travel or sci-fi stuff like me, then you're probably really going to like this one. I'm not too sure about that price. $30 does seem a bit much for this, especially since it is in early access and we're beta testing it for them, but at the same time, depending on what all is there and how long there is to play, it's just kind of hard for me to judge. That's why I didn't bring it up until now. Honestly, it's going to be up to you guys. If what you saw looks fun, then check it out. If not, then pass. I personally would recommend waiting maybe half a year to see if there's any big improvements made on it before looking at it, and when you do, try to get it at a discount. You know, but yeah, it's a pretty decent little game. Not the best, but definitely not awful either. I'd say it's a pretty average game. So yeah, check it out if you feel like it. Alright everybody? Alright, that's all the time I got for this video. Thanks to everyone who decided to check it out. If you have any questions or concerns, please let me know in the comments down below. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I can't wait to see you all again on my next adventure. So until then, I bid you all farewell.